cheers to summer.
Yes.
And cheers to Margaux.
Margaux.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Margaux Miller is here. You know what? I don't even want to say as a guest, but I think what really I admire about Margaux is that you, girl, reinvent yourself every time I meet you. And you know, I think, well, for me, because I'm older, I'm scared of change. I'm scared of whatever, and it's just like, okay, just point me in the direction, and I'll stay the course. But you're a sign of the times, though. And so, you know, so a little bit about you, right? So ITCAM, so information, communication, technology Association of Manitoba, program director.
Right.
But more importantly, she's got this amazing podcast called Start.
Nice.
Startpodcast.ca.
Can't wait to hear
Yes.
all about
I know.
that.
Perfect.
So I did very well. Okay, so I'm done. This is like the most formal, right, girls, of all of our discussions, but I wanted to make sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, and as far as change is concerned, you know, it's a scary thing sometimes for people to change. I think I just kind of got lucky. Like, I had people that I worked with and worked for that were really entrepreneurial, like in that mindset. And when you're around those people, change is happening every single day. And so you kind of just start to learn that that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's a, you know, you kind of said it's a sign of times. To be honest, I feel like it's almost necessary for survival. Like, you have to be someone who's able to diversify your income. I don't feel like 9-to-5 jobs really cut it anymore. A lot of people, just to even survive, they're looking for that, you know, what's it, not side, well, I call it a side gig, but it's called something else.
A side hustle.
Yeah, the side hustle. Like, a new term is like side hustle. And, you know, and I feel like people who have that side hustle, you're constantly changing. You're constantly moving, and, you know, it's a beautiful world that we can do that.
That's so funny,
right?
Side hustle.
Yeah.
That's
now
like
the coined term.
Is it? Because I was reading a media kit and it was the same thing, side hustle, and I'm going, what, is that a new dance move? No. No.
And
but
we all do it.
The side hustle.
You're tired of the
dance move?
Yeah.
Is there a dance move?
If
tired
not,
of
there
the
is
tap
now.
I think we should make one up. Okay, but continue.
I just think that at the end of the day, we need to just commit ourselves to our vision. The beautiful thing about being in this day and age is that you can truly find what you're passionate about. You can find any kind of vehicle to make that work. So why not live like that? You know, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but we're almost sitting on the anniversary of my mentor passing away, and he was 40 years old. I think when we were at breakfast, we talked about that. And, you know, it's like you go through life, you work corporate, you make your 6 figures, because that's a big deal, right? And then you're like, okay, I want to do something for myself. And then life happens, right? And life can sometimes throw you these wrenches that you're like, what is happening? But all the time it's building you into something, helping you evolve into that person you're supposed to be. And for him, he hit that launch pad year and then just didn't wake up. Like, passed in his sleep, didn't wake up at 40 years old. So for me, I'm just like, listen, people, enough with the side hustle, enough with the gains. You're either committed and this is what you want to do, or you're not. Or go be a 9-to-5er, which is really honorable, but that works for some people.
Yeah, it works for some people.
Yeah, it does. Go ahead.
With the podcast, it's really interesting because we interview people who have startups, and we only are interviewing the founders of startups in the Canadian prairies.
Wow.
So the whole idea is to hear the stories of people who are starting businesses here at home.
Love it.
And who have gone through like the hustle, right? But an interesting part of it is that a lot of people will tell us that, in fact, they all started their thing on the side, because I think the 9-to-5 is like what we're still being taught to some degree growing up, right? So do that. But on the side, what they're doing is their passion. And that's where you're saying, like, just jump in.
Just jump in.
What we hear from people is you just have to start. Like, and so the Start podcast is aptly named because that's what we kept hearing from people. You know, take the side hustle, do what you're passionate about, and then it will attract attention because you are doing what you're truly passionate about, and it shows.
And you're committed.
And you're committed. But to be fair, I think the people, because, like, look, you guys, I understand everyone does the 9-to-5. I do my 9-to-5. You know what I mean? That's fair. We got to survive. We have bills to pay. So I think that's no human being does not want to be completely, you know, consumed by their passion. We all want to be consumed by our passion. it's fulfilling, right? It makes you feel good. But then you also have to pay the bills. So I think a lot of the times people do their 9 to 5 until their side hustle, well, it's no longer a side hustle. Now it's like that. It grows and it's something so magnificent that you can kind of just make a living off it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of can phase out on the 9 to 5. But man, whatever works. Do what you gotta do, but like your passion is what's incredible. And from you, just like even talking to you, you're talking about your podcast. I'm just like, oh yeah, I can feel her energy. I can feel her energy. So yeah, congrats, it's huge.
Yeah, that's
Thank
huge.
you.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what have you learned though? I mean, through
Through
all
the
of
podcast?
this, through the podcast. I mean, you're hearing firsthand. So
Yeah. The biggest feedback we're getting is that you just have to start piece.
Yeah.
And most people end up like after a year or so of really grinding on the side and doing the long hours with both jobs, then they're getting there. So it's just kind of like don't expect it to happen overnight is part of it.
Right.
But the other thing actually that we're hearing consistently is how strong our community is here in Manitoba at supporting local. That whole like support local, shop local, hashtag, that kind of stuff, right? It's actually happening. So everyone's saying like that's what they've seen. That's how they were able to be confident and grow here at home, and that's also why they're not moving.
Right.
You know, so
So I wanted to ask you, with your other hat, working with Information and Communications Technologies Association.
yeah,
So-
Tech Manitoba. That
Tech
works.
Manitoba.
Yeah.
So we're going to Kelowna and in a few weeks. But anyways, their talk there is that that's becoming the new Silicon Valley. Kelowna is, you know, and it's a lot of technology and a lot of stuff is now starting up in Kelowna. How is Manitoba? How is Winnipeg? Where do we stand? Or, you know?
Yeah. I mean, good question. Across Canada, there are certainly little hubs that are kind of popping up and growing everywhere. Manitoba is also quite rapidly growing their tech sector. In fact, in general, tech is the fastest growing industry to be in. So I'm happy to work in that industry, you know? And I was at a wild tech startup before being where I am now. In the year I was there, we went through due diligence and an acquisition, and we were bought by a multi-billion-dollar company, and we did facial recognition and people tracking and things like that. So there's these things, and we were in Winnipeg, right? So there's these things happening, and I think one thing about Manitoba is we have that, we just need to talk about it more.
Yeah.
You know, because we have these really cool businesses popping up constantly.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for Manitobans, and look guys, we love you. We are you, you know, and you know, none of us have moved away despite whatever, you know, and we all have opportunities elsewhere, but we don't move because we love, like deeply love our province and our people and all that. But we're allowed to toot our horn. Like we're allowed to say, like, we are the best. Like I go to freaking places and wear my little Winnipeg shirt just because I like representing.
Yeah.
So, you know, no matter what you're doing, just be okay with being confident about it and promoting yourself. But that's I mean, that's a whole different topic for a whole different day. But I just feel like Manitoba specifically, you go to TO and everyone's just like, I'm from TO. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. But cut. I'm from, you know, like they'll promote their city, they'll promote their work, they'll promote all the, but Manitobans don't do that. Like we're so humble, and I think that's the greatest quality about us, but that's also the part that we, it kind of holds us back a bit. So
It does end up holding businesses back too,
It
because
does.
like with the podcast, we see that part of the reason we started it was because we saw Manitoba businesses were underfunded and under-promoted. And we were like, how is there a way that we can help support this ecosystem, support the innovation economy that we have here, like to your point, to your question. So that, you know, will all slowly help, and we're digging at it, you know, and there's a lot of organizations working at that, including, you know, ICTAM and North Forge and like a lot of groups that are supporting startups, but
So that's crazy.
I mean, I just think there's such great things in the city for it. A lot of people, don't know a lot of the resources that are available to them. A lot of times fear gets in the way of like even just researching, going and talking to somebody. Like there's so many people that are just so open here that are willing to say, I went here and I did this. I went over here and did this. Go talk to this person, whatever. There's so many opportunities. And I think that that's where, you know, for me, like when I work with my clients, I'm like, this is the vision. Like it's non-negotiable. This is life. And this is what you're doing, and whatever you got to do to make that happen, make it happen. But it comes from that point of commitment. You know, I think what you're talking a little bit about is like that mindset. Like if you really believe that Winnipeg is somewhere that you can plant a seed, grow it and it can bloom and flourish, then you will do amazing things here. If you think that Winnipeg or Manitoba has nothing for you, then you're not going to do anything here. And it's so interesting coming back this time because I've been away for a while and just running into people who are like, I've been following your story since your life coaching day. I'm like, please, like I don't even post like that, you know, but
That's a really good
people
point.
are watching constantly. So just stay consistent, continue to do what you're doing, and reach out to people like Margaux and you know, all of that, because there are so many opportunities for promotion. We just have to tap into them and not be afraid, I think.
Do you think though, well, and then this goes back to the thing that we don't like to toot our own horn, but we're also very conservative and we don't like to spend money. You know, it's you know, trying to like really, and I'm sure that's a lot of it with these people that are starting up businesses. It's just Winnipeggers don't really like to take a chance like they like to think they do.
Yeah, it's certainly a mentality that we have, that we kind of have to like surpass that hurdle. Even with ICTAM, we have one branch, a project of ours called Tech West, and they take companies from across Western Canada and bring them to global opportunities. So whether that's like big trade shows like CES or, you know, as far as Mobile World Congress in Barcelona and places like that. And when we see the divide of companies between provinces, you know, the other Western provinces have a significantly higher representation at these shows than the Manitoba ones, even though this office and this hub is based here in Winnipeg.
Wow.
Why do you think that is, and what do you think that
Needs to change.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like, how do we influence that change in and shift in mindset?
Start it with the Hue Crew. No,
Today is the day. This is it. Yeah, I mean, part of that is just like the baked in mentality that like unfortunately we have here to some degree. So we have to just keep offering these programs, keep working really hard to have them based here because they could easily move that away, right? And then just keep promoting it and talking about it until hopefully there's enough energy around it. To just get more attention on it. Like it comes full circle to this idea of more promotion around things, being you know, excited to talk about what opportunities there are.
I think too, even like traveling to the States and doing a lot of business things in the States as far as entrepreneurs and stuff like that, just the culture is so different. They're ready to invest, they're ready to look at like, who's an expert, I want to work with you, let's do this, because they have that end goal in mind. But something that I think Manitoba and Winnipeg specifically is really missing for entrepreneurs and startups is like those actual training conferences, like not where we come and chat, but training conferences where we actually can pull people in and we're going through the logistics of why are you not starting, why are you not promoting yourself, why are you not, you know what I mean?
And how.
But I think that
and how,
it's all in time, right? So and I don't have numbers on this, but I'm going to make an assumption here that since RBC has kind of expanded, we've seen like the homelessness conference in Winnipeg. We've seen tons of conferences that normally have not been in Winnipeg now come to Winnipeg. But it takes somebody to take the initiative and the lead to bring all those people here. Like those things don't need to be in Barcelona. They could be in Winnipeg, right? Like it could be not Winnipeg, roll your eyes type of jam halfway across.
Well, and yes, Winnipeg and economic development and things like that, they're working on that, bringing big events and big conferences here.
That's exactly the core, like that's a huge component of it. But the other part of it too is like, I'll just say this just from my personal perspective, and I don't know, like I'm sure like my life journey was very different, so I have a different kind of mindset about how things work. I find that for me specifically, I have a hard time promoting in Winnipeg. Like I would almost feel more comfortable promoting in, and I do, in other cities than in Manitoba.
Promoting yourself or a project you're working on?
Just myself, my project, anything that I'm doing. Like I don't think that most Manitobans don't have the stuff that I do because I don't really, do a lot in Winnipeg. It's in Winnipeg, but I don't,
What do you think the barrier is?
But I think that's a personal challenge that I have. I mean, obviously we're all about like, just being honest, and I feel like I'm very honest when we're together. But I just feel like I'm still kind of healing. I feel like I have a lot of hurdles in my mind about things, like even with the Hue Crew, I know that we've talked about it, and it's so magnificent, and with such a diverse group and probably one of a kind, I believe across the country this crew is. But for me, I still have so much fear of people just kind of undermining or just being like, well, who the hell, you know what I mean? So as much as we are all of these wonderful things, I think it still at times could be a really small town. Like and I think that, so you're still a small town, and if you're not kind of in a certain group, which I'm not, which is why I
Let's
do
just
what I
call
do
it
now.
thinking, I'll say it.
Right. So for me,
Yeah.
but that's my specific thing. But
Yeah.
then when you think about it from a business perspective or an entrepreneurial perspective, like, is this province missing out on any talent that I have? And I'm just one
No.
person. I'm sure there's a lot of it. I'm
Yeah.
sure they are. You know what I mean? Because I feel much more comfortable being in other places. But so, you know, in a roundabout way, you know, maybe it's not being superficially supporting people, but really deeply being supporting
Supportive.
people.
Yeah.
And it maybe this is like, you know, we're like a little gang, and you know, we all want Manitoba to succeed and be on this public kind of, because I love, like, there's no doubt, I don't think anyone will ever doubt how much I deeply, deeply love Manitoba and Winnipeg, and but I'm always still scared to do what I'm supposed to do here. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, but that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I don't believe I'm the only one.
No.
I
You know,
think
I don't
are
believe I'm the
either.
only one,
But I
but-
think there comes a point in time where you have to put that, again, that bigger purpose, that bigger
100%.
vision ahead of it. And like, I'm willing to be the person that if I got to go out and make a fool of myself
Yeah.
or whatever, like I'm willing.
Yeah.
And so I think it more comes into that personal place. Now,
I
when
think
we
it's a
talk,
confidence.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's confidence.
Yeah.
But also when we go
Totally is
into
confidence.
the clickiness of Winnipeg, which is a very real thing. And if you're
It is,
on
right? I'm not just saying that. It truly is. Like, am I?
Nope.
No,
Because
no,
I,
you're
like,
right.
to be fair, I always have to acknowledge the fact that, like, my journey was very different. Like, my world is, like, my lens is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that.
Okay, cool. Okay,
It-
because I've always thought about that, and so that makes
No,
me feel a little better.
It literally has to do with, I mean, I think there's multiple things. I think that we don't want to bring race into it, but there is a race component. I think that, you know, if you're in those circles already and somebody brings you into it, then, you know, you're the cream of the cream.
Yeah.
But if you have to prove yourself, which I don't think anybody at this table is, you know, afraid to prove
No.
themselves
No.
or bring to the table, but why are you the judge of what I bring to the table?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just see me at face value and recognize that I
you're
don't
hitting
do
on a really,
I don't do
really
what
important
Margaux
point.
does. I have no idea
Yeah.
about tech stuff. I have no clue. If
We all
anybody
have
asks
our-
me, I'm pointing them in your direction.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we all at this table have our specializations,
Yes.
and I think that instead of embracing those and then referring amongst each other,
collaboration.
Yes,
true
yes.
collaboration.
And maybe that's
Yeah.
the crux of it.
yeah.
Maybe that's just really
But I
it.
think it's first seeing everybody as a human being.
Yeah.
First seeing everybody as an expert, an individual, seeing that they have something to bring to the table. And we're not even talking about just being a woman
No.
on top of all of that.
No, that's just way deeper
Right?
than that. Way deeper than that.
Well,
And-
that's
Yeah.
interesting because I was going to ask Margaux too. I mean, is there a difference between male and female?
Yeah, I was literally gonna go
I
right
mean,
there.
it's still there, right? It's easier for guys than for women.
Ooh, yeah, and I mean, big topic.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
XM2, we have a branch of our
our-
organization that's
yes.
called Maven.
Yeah.
And Maven like has a social media and everything. And I would
Yeah.
direct you there if you really want to get into the conversation of women in the workforce, especially in STEM, like in tech.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they've done a ton of research and they're working on a guide to help women in
Love it.
tech.
Yeah, and I saw some of those videos. So,
Yeah, some of it's awesome, but
it's very true.
but they do say at the end of the day, like, they called it Maven too because they thought it was kind of a name that was not gender specific. Like, the idea is you do need both people at the table to
Yes.
have
Yes.
this
Yes.
conversation,
Yes.
so it's tough, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, actually, especially when it comes to like new businesses, like we were talking about earlier, there's tons of grants and supports for women-based businesses and things like that, and people like are starting to really support and push a lot more. So that's going to be a nice trend that we're going to see. But still, like in tech, for example, I think women are 25% of the workforce
Yeah.
in general across the country.
Yeah.
I think we're 27 in Manitoba, so we're doing like a little bit better.
Yeah,
But I mean, still a ways to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that starts with like us sitting at the table, having
Having
those conversations, representing, showing up.
Oh, you guys, don't do that. Don't. Okay, you know what? She
Yeah.
just flipped. You know how I am. You just kind of flipped the switch. It's not just being a token
Okay, come on.
person at the table. It's
No.
just I've been at many tables, being the token woman, being the token
Sure.
brown, being the
Sure.
token, and
But I'm saying as a collective, right?
Yes.
So if this whole thing with women, if we need to be at the point where it's an advancement for women, not even that, if we're looking at the advancement of just startups, right? okay, everybody who has a vision, who wants a business, who wants a side hustle, who wants whatever we're calling it, okay, you know, like, then we need to come to the forefront and say, look, this isn't working for us, and what do we want to do about it? And not just bring it to the table, but come with some solutions.
Come with
some
policy
ideas.
changes. Come with,
you know what I mean? Like, have something to bring to This is my favorite thing to say. Bring something to the table.
I like that sentiment for sure.
Agreed. I totally
and with
agree.
the podcast too, like I have more than half our guests so far have been women, and that's a little bit accidental because actually my co-host is my brother, who's a totally different mind than I am. He's an engineer, a civil engineer. Like, he builds bridges for a living. He's got a totally different brain than me. But it's part of the fun because he comes to the table with totally different questions, like the technical side, you know. But with him, like, he doesn't seem bothered by the fact that I keep bringing women on the show more than men, and we get some really interesting ones that are, you know, that are male dominated. But and we have some very cool startups for sure in the city that are like a lot of male-run tech companies and things like that. But the women are getting a lot of attention now. And to your point earlier, the biggest thing is when that collaboration piece comes up that we're talking about, it's a lot easier for me to naturally collaborate with women, right? So, like, we just did a photo shoot with League Label Co., a local company doing like cool Winnipeg clothing and shirts and stuff like you're talking about, because she just reached out to me and said, hey, like, I love what you're doing with the podcast. Let's do something. And there's other local bloggers that are women that were there, and you know, so it was really collaborative.
I'm really excited. And I apologize, but I'm really like, I know I admire what you're doing. I just want to say it. I admire what you're doing. I think that it's incredible. I think that. You know, and to be fair, I was just kind of hearing about this in preparation to this, but I'm super pumped to like go back and listen to everything and to share it and to do it. How do you choose who's going to be on? Because I think that, I mean, you know, just helping you kind of, you know, propel into like a really kind of top 5, which is what I want to see her be. How do we make this happen for you? Because you're incredible, you know, and we've all known you in different circles.
Totally.
We've all known each other in different circles, and I just like Tracy, like, I've been watching you. I've admired you for a very long time. I think you're an incredible woman, and I think that you're so put together and you're so strong in your convictions and whatever you're doing, and it's really beautiful to see. So you figure out how we can help, and I'm down. Like, I want to see her at the top 5. Top 5 podcast minimum at Manitoba.
Start podcast.
Yeah, it's incredible.
On Instagram. Startpodcast.ca.
Follow.
No, well, and thank you so much. I really appreciate that sentiment, and knowing that you're all strong women in the community, that we're seeing each other, you know, so it's nice to feel that support. And as far as guests are concerned, like, one important thing I should mention is that I happen to work in the tech industry on a normal day, but with the podcast, it's not just tech. So it's any startup. We want to talk to the founder. If they offer their service or product in Manitoba, ideally if they were founded here, that's who we want to talk to. So any industry. And when we're picking, like, we're really trying to get that diversity, you know? Like, we've had people in health and beauty, and then we have someone in tech, and then we have someone in like a service of some kind, and then a product of some kind. So we're really trying to kind of rotate through, so it's not all just the same. What you hear, you know, Silicon Valley, there's amazing businesses there, right? And we alluded to different areas. But you don't have to be there to have an amazing business. And those are the stories we want to tell.
Right on.
No matter who they are.
And it's just the way to get a word out and promotion.
Absolutely.
Full circle to promotion again, and it's hard, but I mean, now there's so many different venues and avenues, and you're right, bring something to the table. So quickly though, because well, our wine's getting a little low, but Shayna, she knows where this is going. Weekend boyfriend. Another between side hustle and weekend boyfriend.
That's a term now, a weekend boyfriend?
So I guess I was.
Should be.
Tracy and I were talking, and I was literally saying, like, sometimes, I love you, Kelvin. Sometimes I feel like I just need, like, what would life be like? Let me say this. What would life be like if there was just like a weekend boyfriend instead of like somebody who you're fully submersing your life with?
So is this like a boy toy?
No, it is not a boy toy in my opinion. This is the disclaimer. It's more so like, as a woman, right? So I turned 31 in less than a month, and you know, when you're in a relationship, people are always like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? When are you whatever? Yeah. I'm literally on the launch pad of my business and stuff that I'm doing, and this version of my business, and crossing borders with that. There's no time to think about having a child. For me personally, there's other women who can multitask it.
Sure.
I know me.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. I don't even want to think about it. You know, even for marriage, I think marriage is great. It shouldn't change anything. But now you really do have that full responsibility to another person. When they want you to shut down the computer, you got to shut it down.
Yeah,
when
you
you got
gotta
to whatever,
contribute
you got to
to the
contribute to the
relationship.
relationship and not just your personal focus. And maybe I just have a balance issue, but for me, hashtag I admit it. So, but for me, I just think that, like, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody that you enjoy spending time with? It's not a sexual thing. It's more like, hey, I want to go to the movies. I want to go dinner. If there's an event I'm going to, like, do you want to tag along with me?
Right.
But it's not that commitment of needing to be in the mundane,
Relationship.
Yeah.
like, how was your day? What did you have for breakfast? Blah, blah, blah.
I feel like
all
I've
that kind
had
of
this
stuff.
without realizing that there was a term for it.
Okay.
I think when you are a career-focused woman,
Yeah.
there is that, like, that situation that's going to come up, right?
Yeah.
You do want camaraderie and you want to
Yes.
share your day with
Yes.
somebody, and your girlfriends are great.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, that
Male energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About it, yeah.
Yeah.
there is something about it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do a lookout for you. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. That sounds
I feel
like a
I feel
perfect
like
kind of
all
relationship.
my guy friends are my weekend boyfriends because I don't have a boyfriend.
Sure,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I'm still
That's-
single.
yeah.
By the way. We're gonna
That's
get
a
to
whole
this
other
story.
You're a
episode.
whole- you're
I deserve
clear.
a full topic.
Here we go.
But I'm just saying. Here.
Cheers.
I'm just
Okay,
joking.
cheers.
Cheers.
Wish
Thank
you
you.
the best.
Yes,
thank
I-
you so
I,
much
I can't
for
wait to
coming.
see you top 5.
Well,
Yes.
That's
top
my.
five. Here's
that's
to
what
top
I'm watching.
5.
Cheers to top 5.
well, and you can watch all the other Hue episodes at ilikehue.com. All right.
Go at it.
Do you like the wine?
Yeah.